Well, much like the Bucs Bonus also coming off of a bye week. Unfortunately, I think for everybody in the room, I can probably safely say we didn't get a week off of work. So we're not really exactly coming in relaxed and refreshed. But it doesn't matter. We're going to chug along all the same and tell you about why the Bucs should have a better outlook for the second half of the season on this episode of Bucs Bonus.
Live from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida, the home of News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. This is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now.
Welcome into the Stream Center here at WFLA, News Channel 8, your official home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course, Bucs Bonus. We are back after having a week off, and I'm here, your host, as always, Garrett Phillips, here with Aileen, Scott, and of course, our newest face here, Jeff. Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself to the people? It's kind of a big first time for you.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Fired up. I came in, and now I'm looking forward to doing this.
So obviously, Jeff's a new Buccaneers insider here at News Channel 8. Excited to have you on, especially here for Bucs Bonus for your first episode. And what a first episode for it to be. Coming off of the bye week, and Scott, listen, I'm just going to be honest about it. I kind of missed Bucs football. I don't really miss that it had my heart rate, maybe a little bit down, right, as per the usual this season. The Bucs always get me a bit worked up, but it was a little bit weird not having the Bucs to watch on this bye.
Yeah, but the last Bucs game we saw, Garrett, that was kind of a convincing win, their biggest win of the year in terms of point spread, 23-20 or 23-3 against the Saints. Now, your blood pressure might have been boiling a little bit over those two Antoine Winfield Jr. defensive touchdowns that were called back, one by an erroneous whistle, one by a ref that just couldn't understand that Winfield wasn't down by contact after his interception. So I think this is a good time for the Bucs to have the bye week right in the middle of the season, getting a lot of players kind of healed up and hopefully back. We saw that the team opened up the 21-day practice window for Luke Hnatiuk. If he practices well this week, he will start at right tackle against the Patriots. A 7-2 Patriots team, Aileen, that is coming in here. They're kind of like the Washington Commanders from a year ago. They were the team that was just kind of like came out of nowhere, the upstart team with a veteran head coach last year, Dan Quinn, with Jaden Daniels this year, Mike Vrabel with the guy that was picked behind Jaden Daniels in one spot, Drake May. Both May and Vrabel have a lot to do with this Patriots team being 7-2 right now.
Yeah, I think the Bucs have a good mindset going into week 9, right? Yaya Diaby said the other day, hey, we don't want to be like the Detroit Lions and lose right after our bye week. So I think they're all, have the right mindset and prepared. And of course, they practice on Wednesday. But there's a lot of pieces that could come back, right? Luke Hnatiuk, Bucky Irving potentially. So it'll be exciting to see. And I know Jeff told me that the Bucs are now his favorite NFL team.
I
right,
didn't
Jeff?
have one before, so
he does
by
now.
default. If they keep on wearing the creamsicle jerseys,
then
yes.
I like Jeff already. Those are my favorite uniforms personally that they I've ever put on, at least in the modern era. I know they're not a modern uniform, but look
they
at them. Come on, look at those things.
They're 2-0 in those uniforms.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, let's petition. Maybe we make those
they're
like
so
a
nice.
every other game type of situation at the very least. Because look at those beauties. All right, so coming off the bye week, we've already talked about it. Luke Hnatiuk, we've talked about maybe Bucky Irving, these guys that are hopefully getting a bit more healthy and ready to return. As we were, going into the bye week, the defense was playing very, very well.
Yes.
Still a little bit injured with Hassan Reddick, and obviously still missing Kalijah Kancey. He was out for the year. But they were playing very well. The offense those past 2 weeks with the Lions and the Saints game started to let's say sputter a little bit, right? To start to lose some of that mojo. I have a question. How much of that was just the injuries finally catching up, especially at the receiver position, and also Baker Mayfield? He didn't exactly look like he was fully healthy out there. Some of the limps that we saw on the field. How much of that is hopefully being helped by this bye week?
Hopefully it's a lot. It wasn't even the knee injury that kind of concerned me. It was the oblique injury, right? Because that's kind of defined as your torso. Is it your side? Is it your stomach? It's kind of an injury that doesn't really have a place outside of just your torso. But I do know that when you throw the football, you have to engage that torso. You have to put some crank on those passes. And every time you do that, it might be a little bit of a pinch, a little bit of a tug on those muscles, and that can affect Baker Mayfield's accuracy, can affect his distance in terms of throwing the ball. But it's one of those injuries that you can kind of play through. It's a pain tolerance thing, and hopefully spending a week not throwing the football is going to help Baker Mayfield out. Now, we'll have to keep an eye on the injury reports. If Baker Mayfield is listed as limited in any of these practices leading up to the Patriots game, that's a pretty good sign that injury is still bothering him. If he's a full participant, which means he's out there slinging the rock at practice, then I think that injury might have been just a minor thing that is behind him. But remember, last week prior, or I should say 2 weeks ago, prior to the Saints game, he was a limited participant, then a full participant on Thursday, then a limited participant on Friday. So let's see if Baker Mayfield can just be a full go this week. That would be the best case scenario for this offense, having him be at full strength.
Well, he was a full go on Monday Night Football Manning cast. He seemed in good spirits then, cracking a lot of jokes. That was pretty entertaining, have him on there. But no, you're right. I think with him nursing those injuries, like that's, in my opinion, why maybe he wasn't as accurate as he has been the first handful of games. But Garrett, you bring up the fact that the defense, kind of some injuries there with Haason Reddick, but have no fear. Anthony Nelson is here. Are you kidding me? At the best game of his career against the Saints. So even if Haason isn't on the field, you obviously have Anthony Nelson, next man up mentality. I'm sure you were studying up before you got here, Jeff, and watching that game. It was absolutely unreal. But we'll have to see, like you said, who's injured and what the injury report says starting on Wednesday.
Yeah, and what the defense 15 sacks in the last 3 games, and they're starting to hit their stride. Yaya Diaby, who we spoke with yesterday, talked about how it's kind of a team mentality, and you're going up against a Patriots team second most in the NFL with allowed sacks, 34 on the year. They allowed 3.8 per game, which they also have a high-scoring offense, which speaks to just how good Drake May has been.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity for the Bucs defense to continue where they left off before the bye week.
Yeah,
I agree. And Garrett, when you look at where all these sacks are coming from, to Jeff's point, 15 sacks, 15 of the last 3 games, 25 this season. 15 different players, Garrett, have at least half a sack on this Todd Bowles defense. How do you game plan for that? This isn't like Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul back in the day where you got to be worried about those guys. They can be sending the nickel, the strong safety, the weak side linebacker, the middle linebacker. Todd Bowles sends them all. And that's what makes this defense so good, because they attack you from so many different areas.
Great point.
You talked about that 15 sacks over 3 games. That is, if I remember correctly, second in the team's history, I believe only behind the 2000 team, that first 3-game stretch that they had. I think they had some more, but that was a fun little nugget that Baker Mayfield dropped on the Manning cast last night. So obviously, big second half of the season. They're 6-2. What a great position. And I think probably better than a lot of people maybe thought they were going to be at this point in the season. A lot of people are going to tell you that the hardest part of their schedule they've passed, right? With the Eagles, followed by the Seahawks, 49ers, and Lions games. But let's not discount how tough this next 3-game stretch is. I mean, who would have thought the Patriots have looked as good as they have looked? And then, of course, right after that, you've got Buffalo and you've got LA Rams. Both of those, I believe, if I remember correctly, primetime games, which I know they've done better in primetime games this year, but still not exactly their strength. If you were a long-suffering Bucs fan like I was, right? Prime time was always a bad time. So hopefully, right, they're going to be able to get out of this 3-game stretch coming up. 1-2, 2-1. After that, though, is it as smooth a sailing as I think it might be, looking at the rest of the schedule?
I don't know. I think the team to really look out for are the Fighting Dave Canales right now. The Carolina Panthers are 5-4. And in my opinion, they're the team that's going up, and the Raheem Morris-led Atlanta Falcons, they're the team kind of spiraling right now. We have an expression over at Pewter Report, the Falcons find a way to falcon, right, which means they find a way to choke. And they did that again against the Patriots up there in New England. They missed the extra point, and that ultimately cost them an opportunity to tie the game, gave the Patriots the win. So I'm more concerned about Dave Canales and the Panthers. You see them get crushed by the Bills, and then they go up to Lambeau, and they upset the Packers. They're a kind of a helter-skelter team, but they're also a team that's kind of what's to be expected when a team's going from being bad to good, right? They surprise you one week in a good way. They surprise you one week in a bad way the next.
Right.
But they're full of surprises, and I think at the end of the season, you're going to see this Panthers team very well possibly be 9-8 and maybe knocking on the playoffs door. They're going to be a little, yo-yo, but I think for the Buccaneers' sake, they play them in week 17. I'm sorry, in week 16 and week 18, sandwiched in between a game against the Miami Dolphins and Miami. And Aileen, that little stretch concerns me right there. At the very least, you want to split with the Panthers. You can't get swept by Carolina and ultimately put yourself in jeopardy of losing the division at the end of the season when the Bucs are usually winning the division at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think if this was last season, I would be worried. But this season, like we have talked about this entire time, they're coming on the other side of these games. Like I see the Panthers and I'm like, okay, well, I think they got this, as opposed to last season we'd be like, I don't know. But hey, feelings are valid, Scott. I'm not discrediting your emotions here. But the NFC
I'm just looking at last year. It took overtime
You're right.
to beat the Carolina Panthers in Carolina.
And now you have Dave Canales, who is like turning the program around, or the franchise around. But 4 teams are 6-2. Right, in the NFC. So, I mean, like you said, the Panthers are on their heels. It's going to be a race the next four games too. I know. Jeff, I mean, what do you think about covering the NFC South, getting into this vibe, the NFC South, because they've always been, oh my gosh, it's the NFC South, like it's the worst division in football, blah, blah, blah. But you see what a Dave Canales is doing over there in Carolina, and obviously the Bucs are crushing it.
No, and it's really impressive to see what the Bucs have been able to do just over the last few years and how much Baker Mayfield has been able to establish himself as a legitimate MVP candidate. It's funny, the Falcons, as a Atlanta kind of fan, never a Falcons fan, thankfully, to say they're falconing and choking it away. You have to think, with what you look at in the NFC South, you have to think, get through New Orleans, get through Atlanta, and if you split one of those 2 games with Carolina, you're looking at 13-4. If you can go 2-1 over this next 3 game stretch, which is New England, at Buffalo, at Los Angeles, you're looking 13-14, maybe 14-13 if you went out from there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but that is a tough ask, a 2-1 over these next 3 games. And if you're going
to
get there,
you're the home. Come on, Garrett, you're a Bucs fan. Where is your positivity?
I'm just trying to make sure we set the table correctly, and that table, of course, has to start this weekend when they play the Patriots. It's going to be maybe their most winnable game of those 3. And so we really have to make sure you start off on that right foot. We're going to talk more about what the team can do to make sure that they send the Patriots home packing, coming up on the next part of Bucs Bonus. Welcome back into the Stream Center here at WFLA News Channel 8, your official station for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucs Bonus, of course, I am here with Aileen, with Scott, as always, with Jeff, our newest entry here to the Bucs Bonus family. Of course, yep, another little round of applause. We have been talking about this tough stretch for the Bucs. They're coming off of maybe their toughest, or their coming right out of their toughest stretch of the first half of the season, going into probably the toughest stretch of their second half of the season. And that starts when the Patriots come to town this weekend. And as we've talked about with the Patriots, new head coach Mike Vrabel, but really what the story around the Patriots has been so far is the emergence of Drake May, a rookie quarterback last year who was showing some signs. Now in year 2, he's really taking that leap. And some people are even talking about him as a dark horse MVP candidate. Is Drake May that good already, or are we getting a little ahead of ourselves?
No, I think he's 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I think for any quarterback, whether you're a second-year guy or whether you're an established veteran, that's what you want. That's a great touchdown to interception ratio. I think where the Buccaneers have the advantage in this, though, is really in the takeaway department. Kind of to Jeff's point, this defense was really playing exceptionally well heading into the bye week. If they can continue that again, and that just means getting sacks and takeaways, both of those things can make any quarterback, whether you're a second-year guy or a veteran, can make for a nightmare afternoon. But yes, if Todd Bowles can continue to pressure the quarterback with the rate that he has with these 5 and 6 sack games that we've seen this Bucs defense have, that's going to bode well, but also getting the takeaways. Right now, Tampa Bay is near the top of the NFL in terms of turnover margin, +7. The Patriots right now, despite their 7-2 record, they're actually at even. So they do turn the ball over a little bit more than Tampa Bay does, and they don't take it away as much. So if that holds true and the Buccaneers can win the turnover battle, that seems to be the key to success for this Buccaneer team, whether it is by a wide 20-point margin against the Saints or in some of those close wins early in the season at Atlanta and Houston. Win the turnover margin, win the game, and I think if that plays out again, you're going to see the Buccaneers improve to 7-2.
What do you guys think Todd Bowles' game plan is going to be? Because he always struggles against rookies. So do you think he will do his thing and have a million different packages and
Yes.
et cetera? Or do you think he's going to, yeah, okay.
Especially with the bye week, Jeff, because he's this mad scientist anyways, and I'm sure during the bye week he's probably trying to get a little rest and relaxation, but he couldn't help it. Probably, like in the
Just
shower,
plotting.
like like on the steam glass, like doing the X's and O's, right? Probably at dinner with his wife, grabbing a cocktail napkin and just jotting down some new blitzes. So yeah,
Honey,
I
what
would
do you think of
expect
this?
Exactly. I would expect some more blitzes from Todd Bowles against Drake May.
Keep Drake in the pocket and don't let him get outside either. He's so good with his legs, and it goes back to right. They've allowed the second most amount of sacks in the NFL, yet they're the seventh highest scoring offense in the league. And I mean, we said dark horse MVP candidate. I think it's fair to say not even dark horse. He's second in odds on or second favorite to win the MVP right now behind Drake May, Josh Allen. You look back at kind of the schedule, though, that they've come off of, and it makes you wonder, is it the schedule or is it Drake May? And we're definitely going to find out this Sunday, but keeping him contained is going to be a massive priority, I imagine, for Todd Bowles.
Right, we've seen this defense play very well against some pretty good offenses and some pretty good teams. I mean, obviously the second half of the Eagles matchup sticks out to me where they really just shut down that Philadelphia offense. I am confident enough that the defense can at least keep the Bucs in this game with how they can play against the Patriots and their offense. Now, maybe if you're a Bucs fan of these past 2 weeks, 3 weeks now before the bye week, you have a concern about how the offense and the rhythm of the offense hasn't really looked like they've been in sync recently. Again, we're talking about Luke Hnatiuk possibly coming back, depending on how well he plays, practices throughout the rest of this week. No real word yet on Bucky Irving or Chris Godwin, but you would hope that maybe one of them or both of them can come back sooner rather than later. Are we thinking that the offense is just banged up and that's the reason why they really kind of fell flat against Detroit and a little bit against New Orleans as well? Or is there some kind of deeper problem here that they really need to fix during that bye week?
I'm going to say that the offensive line just needs to get back to some rhythm and continuity, right? It's like we saw this team kind of make some strides, like the Seattle game, for example, 38 points on the board. And they kind of had a couple of weeks with that offensive line kind of being the same, right? Even Charlie Heck and Luke Haggard on the right side. But then at the end of that 49ers game, Luke Haggard goes out with an injury. Remember, they scored 30 points in that game. Then they brought in Mike Jordan for the Lions game. Then they replaced him with Dan Feeney at right guard for the Saints game. And the offensive line really wasn't the same in those couple of games. If this team does get Luke Haggard back, his name we haven't really mentioned, not that he's a world beater at right guard, but I think that he was on the field when this team was doing its best to put more points on the board against the Seahawks and 49ers. So he's a bigger body than Feeney is, doesn't have the experience, but he was kind of playing okay next to Charlie Heck. So I'm curious to see what that right side's going to look like. Is it going to be Luke Hnatiuk back at right tackle, or are they going to have to wait maybe another week? We'll see how that foot feels in practice this week. And then who plays right guard? They've gone through Cody Mauch, he's on IR. They've gone through Luke Haggard, Mike Jordan, and Dan Feeney. I'm curious to see which guy they're going to go with and hopefully stick with at right guard, because if that offensive line can get some continuity again up front, it's going to make the running game better and Baker Mayfield's life in the pocket even better as well.
You talked about Charlie Heck a little bit, and I just want to touch on this Aileen, before you get to your point. Charlie Heck has played like in the 80th percent in terms of snaps played. He hasn't played as much as a lot of guys that have started games this year. Yeah. But he has also given up the most pressures of any offensive tackle in the league, despite having not started for the first couple of games. So I think it's very important for a guy like Luke Hnatiuk not only to come back, but to come back and to play like we expect he can play.
Yeah.
I think it's 100% continuity. Like they haven't had continuity the entire season, like with all the injuries. And then of course, when you have Tristan Wirfs come back, even he was a little rusty, right? Like he said in the locker room, he was like, I need to brush off the dust. And like, that'll be the same thing with Luke Hnatiuk. But you have this entire bye week, right, to rest and come back healthy. And then you have this entire week to practice. I think they're going to come back refreshed. I think they're going to come back in sync. I think maybe there might be a first, few plays, maybe the first drive that it's like, okay, let's get our footing here with Luke back in the mix. I think they're going to be fine, and I think Baker's going to be healthy. I don't think the injury is going to be too serious. I think they'll pull out a win on Sunday. I'm going to give my prediction now.
Wow, early.
And
Jumping the gun.
Okay.
yeah,
Jumping the gun here.
and
I'll start on Aileen.
I think it's going to be sunshine and rainbows.
Okay.
I'm curious to see how much Baker is willing to run, and you want to keep him as protected as possible. And
Good luck, right?
That's what makes me a little nervous. Is obviously you have that bye week to get a little rest and recovery, but is anyone going to look at him and it's going to be hard to do? Hey, take it a little easy, especially if the injuries continue to mount. Which with Baker.
There's the great
Knowing him, he'll do the complete opposite.
great little soundbite. I remember
Scramble every play.
Yeah. I think one thing that we need to see is kind of like Emeka Egbuka put the superhero cape back on.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah,
the
he
last
was
two
quiet
games,
the last
his
two games.
production's a little bit muted. Could have had a touchdown if Baker had put more oomph on the ball on that pass in Detroit. But we need to kind of see him go back to being that 100-yard guy, being that alpha receiver that's left now with Chris being sidelined and Mike out for the rest of the regular season likely. So that's what I want to see. I want to see the Baker to Emeka connection reestablished and hit some big plays downfield, especially in the end zone and the red zone.
I want to see Sterling Shepard be the veteran that he is, right? He'll be starting, so him as well.
Important for the receivers to step up, obviously. Really quickly, since Aileen already kind of gave the farm away a little bit with the pick, Scott and Jeff, I'm going to ask you guys your predictions for the Patriots game, and then I have to bring up a whole new prediction because Aileen has thrown me off so much for what to ask for you guys in the C block. That is what it is.
Do.
So, whichever one of you wants to go first.
I'll let Scott
Jeff.
go first.
I think Tampa Bay wins this game just under 30 points. I think Tampa Bay can put 27 on the board and probably win this game 27-17. I'm going to give Drake May a couple of touchdowns, but I think ultimately Todd Bowles and this Bucs defense win the game in the second half by putting the clamps on the Patriots offense. So 27-17 is my score.
I would agree. 2.5-point favorites for the Bucs. I think they find a way to contain Drake May. Drake May hasn't seen a defense like this in a few weeks. I think the Bucs come out of the bye week and they don't fall into the trap that was told to them about the Lions losing, that Dan Campbell preached to his team, and then Todd Bowles told them they don't want to do that. I think the Bucs get this done.
All right, well, we're all picking the Bucs, which makes me a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but
So you pick the Pats?
No, I'm picking the Bucs as well. Obviously, I'm never going to not pick the Bucs. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk about another prediction, not for just this game, but for how we think the team is going to finish in the second half of the year. We'll be right back here on Bucs Bonus. Welcome back into the Stream Center here at News Channel 8, your official home for the Bucs. It's Bucs Bonus. Garrett here with Aileen, Scott, and Jeff. And of course, we're talking about the Bucs coming off of a bye week. We have all already given our predictions. We all think they're going to come out and get to 7-2 after a win against the Patriots this weekend. But let's talk about the rest of the way. If we're going to say that they're going to be 7-2 after this weekend, what is their record going to look like after games against the Bills, after games against the Rams, 2 games against the Panthers, the Falcons, Cardinals, Saints, and of course the Miami Dolphins? Those are the rest of the teams on their schedule, not necessarily in that order. But I want to know what everybody thinks the record is going to be for this Bucs team come the end of the regular season. And we're going to start with Scott Reynolds because, of course, nobody knows the Bucs quite like Scott Reynolds. Scott,
OG.
putting you on the spot here.
I was wrong with my first half prediction. I thought they would be 5-3. They're 6-2, so they're actually on some house money right now. I think I had originally predicted an 11-6 record for Tampa Bay. Wouldn't be surprised if they get that, but given the fact that they have house money, I think they've got that extra win that I wasn't accounting for. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 6-3 down the stretch, and that's what I originally predicted them to do, go 6-3 down the stretch. So I'm going to say 12 wins this year. I think 11 really should be the floor. 12 wins is likely, and 13 wins is not out of the question. But I'm going to go with a 6-3 finish down the stretch to get to 12 wins.
Love that. Aileen, you're next.
7-2 down the stretch because I'm a positive penny. Jeff?
See, I was going to say 7-2. Give me 8-1.
Dang.
I'm new,
Wow, Jeff.
and I'm coming out firing.
Wow.
Look, if you go 2-1 over this next 3-game stretch, and you look after that, you get Arizona at home, a team that's figuring out whether or not they're actually going to start Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett. Then you have New Orleans. What a great team to get at home before having a Thursday night game against Atlanta. You get the extra rest before going to Carolina. Then you're at Miami. okay, Mike McDaniels might as well have one foot out the door. And then you have one final game against Carolina at home with the 1 seed potentially on the line, 14-3.
I like Jeff. I like Jeff.
14-3.
I want to. Let's.
Don't
how about
let
you,
me down,
Garrett?
fellas.
Come on, Garrett. What's your prediction?
I'm not quite as positive. I actually agree with Scott. I think 6-3 is the most likely. I think they're going to go 1-2.
You're a
these
realist.
next three
Nah,
games.
you're 5-4, Garrett. Tell us. He's like, I'm a Bucs fan. I love the Bucs, and he was like, yeah, I think they're going to
It's the
lose against the
conditioning. I've
Patriots.
just been
Yeah, he
conditioned.
has
You've
trauma,
been
guys. We're
conditioned to think
working
that way.
through the trauma. Okay.
Exactly. Well, anyway, as always, thank you so much, Scott, for joining us here on Bucs Bonus. I'm just giving you a moment here. Talk about what's going on over at Pewter Report.
Yeah, check out our website, pewterreport.com, for all the latest moves, roster moves, injury reports, game coverage. And make sure you check out our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV, for our Pewter Report podcast. Just had John Gruden on as our guest on Monday, and Bruce Arians the week of the bye. So check out those interviews. They're fantastic
So
on
good.
Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel.
Awesome. So cool. Two big names, obviously, over at Pewter Report. Scott Reynolds, as always, thank you so much for joining us here. News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. This was a great episode of Bucs Bonus. For Aileen, for Jeff, for Scott, I am Garrett, and we will see you, hopefully, talking about the 7-2 Bucs next week.